As always, myself and the members had a great trading week with a couple nice trades from the daily market breakdown videos. Let's get right into this week's Forex Forecast. All right, starting with the US dollar index. First, looking at the DXY, just want to remind everyone, we do have a daily uptrend, so do not let the lower time frames, fully indicate what you're doing. Yes, we have, if you look at this recent price action right here, yeah, we have definitely seen some downward pressure on the DXY, but look at the overall trend here. It's very, very important to remember that, and I just want to zoom out for you guys. Make sure you guys are acknowledging this daily trend to the upside. It is very, very important. It doesn't mean price won't break the uptrend, but in theory, based on this trend to the upside, we should actually expect price to continue to go up on the DXY. And just to look at the weekly chart real quick as well, I am looking to see this high removed. I'm not saying it will go there, but I'm saying if we do see that daily trend continuing up and we do start to see the lower time frame zone start to trend up again, I do think we will probably break that high at about the 107.35 area and create a weekly trend to the upside and potentially push all the way back up to this pretty decent weekly supply zone, which I actually think we will react to the downside off of to maybe fill in some short orders up here. So just wanted to give you guys that higher time frame perspective, because I know a lot of people here on YouTube are day traders, and that's fine. I think that's great. I'm personally not, but it's always important to remember those higher time frames. And if you look at a 4-hour chart, the issue I'm seeing right now is we are pretty much going sideways. This is a 4-hour supply zone that we recently reacted off of. Now, this is a supply zone I pointed out in the daily market breakdown videos for the members to keep an eye on, based on the fact that I thought we would react off of it. And I mean, yeah, we hit it and immediately we pushed down to this demand zone that I'm also expecting to get a reaction off of. So at this point, based on the daily trend that we have, I am thinking this demand zone should hold. Of course, nothing is 100%, guys. Yes, I am wrong sometimes, obviously. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I am perfect, so it could break, but like I said, based on the daily trend to the upside, I'm actually expecting us to react positively off of this demand. It's also possible maybe we test the lows, break the demand zone, but ultimately I think we will go up, potentially break this supply, and any zone that breaks this supply zone now, since we've reacted off it, is very significant. So if we do push off this demand zone, this is our next stop, again at the 105.69 area. I think we will at least hesitate to get through the zone, but eventually break it to the upside. So I am looking to see a positive move off of this demand zone right now in the DXY as we push off of that, because like I said, guys, the daily trend is up. So in theory, yes, supply zones are working out. That's why I pointed out this supply zone to the members as well. But in theory, since the trend is up, this demand zone should be stronger and we should start to react to the upside, off of that 4-hour demand zone there on the DXY. Remember, the trend to the upside on the daily chart is to the upside, guys. Until then, we pretty much, have to continue to look for longs in the dollar. It doesn't mean we can't get short trades like we saw up here. It just means the higher odds situation is to the long side. On to the forecast for the Euro-US dollar. Remember, every like matters, guys. All of the ad revenue from these weekly Forex Forecast videos is donated to my local hospice. So every like helps get more people driven to these videos, creates more ad revenue that is donated to my local hospice. So it would mean a lot if you could like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. So the Euro chart, remember, opposite of the DXY, the trend is down here on the daily chart. We are getting close to testing this downward trend line, but we pretty much have to go off of the lower time frame charts. I would call this an uptrend at this point, based on the fact that we have higher highs, higher lows. So it is looking pretty good. I would like to see, this higher move would really give us a new trend line here to draw, would give us a very, very nice trend to the upside. So in theory, on a 15-minute chart or even a 5-minute chart, I think you could be looking for longs on those day trading timeframes, at least up to the 1.08 area at this 4-hour area of supply. There is a zone down here in the 4-hour chart, the 1.06 area, but look how deep it was tested. I still think it's somewhat decent. We could maybe get a move off that zone. This is actually another one we pointed out in the daily market breakdown videos from before. So yeah, I think we could continue to go up, and even on the 1-hour chart, the price action is much more clear. We had a pretty nice consistent 1-hour downtrend. We broke the downtrend with this demand zone that broke not only a downward trend line, but also a 1-hour supply zone. You can clearly see we are reacting off the zone at this point. We barely tested the zone, so I think it's possible we come in for a second test and continue to react off of it. It's not 100%. Like I said, the daily trend is down on the dollar, so I am expecting price to go down. But I like to point out both sides. I like to point out the potential setups for longs, the potential setups for shorts, because I know people are playing both sides. And just because maybe I think the euro is going to go down in the short term doesn't mean we can't get a nice trade off of this to the upside. So if you want to look for longs, this would be our 1 hour zone where you could look for day trading longs on a 5-minute time frame. And let's say we break this demand zone like that. Any 1 hour supply zone there, we could look for shorts off of like that. So, and why? Well, because this is a significant 1 hour demand zone. Like I said, we had a very, very nice downward trend here, and it was removed by this demand. That's why we were reacting off of it right now. So if this demand zone is broken, that would be pretty significant in my opinion, especially since it's been proven demand already. So again, if we remove that, that'd be a pretty bearish sign, which could also indicate that that daily trend is going to continue on the DXY. And at that point, we could look for shorts on the euro. But as far as shorts go right now, I'm just not seeing, any potential setups. If you go back to the 4 hour chart, I guess that this 4 hour supply up here is still pretty decent at the 1.08 area, but until then, I wouldn't really be looking for shorts, especially since we have a trend to the upside on the 4 hour time frame, and we broke the downward trend on the 1 hour time frame. So when I say longs, it's pretty much on day trading time frames only until we can hit that 4 hour supply, where then we can maybe look for shorts. Or like I said, if we don't push up to that 4 hour supply zone, if we break that 1 hour demand zone there, any 1 hour supply, like I said, would be decent for potential short trades here on the euro US dollar. All right, onto the forecast for XAUUSD gold. On the weekly chart here, I was really hoping we get that pullback down to the 22.19 area, down at this weekly zone. Based on this last week's candle, it doesn't really look like we are going to get there, although it is still possible. This really isn't too much to be concerned about if you want to get that pullback. But just wanted to point that out. The trends are still up. It's more evident here on the daily chart what's going on, creating some sort of low here. But it's obviously still possible we do start to pull back. But I'm really not seeing any signs of that taking place. If you look at a 4 hour chart here, we had this beautiful 4 hour demand zone here that broke a trend line similar to the euro, and we reacted nicely, pretty much picture perfect off of this 4 hour demand zone. 5-to-1 pretty much hit. This is a little trade we took in the daily market breakdown videos, as you can see on the screen now. And if you do want access to these daily market forecast videos that I release throughout the week, check out the Diamond membership. Links are in the description down below. You get the daily market forecast videos, private Discord group, video lessons, Sunday Zoom sessions and forecasts, and much more. So check it out. We'll be happy to see all serious traders join the team, potentially catch trades like this. So again, links in the description down below. We'd be happy to see you guys join the team. So now that this trade has worked out, unfortunately, if you weren't a member, you didn't get that zone down there, but now we have a zone right here at the 23.55 area. It is definitely not as quality as this zone is down here, just based on the price it's at alone and the fact that this broke a downward trend line. However, there is a zone here. If price pushes down to the zone, it's semi-decent. I don't like the move away. If you look at the move away here, we pretty much returned immediately, where this one took some time. So yeah, you could use this for day trading longs. I think it is fine. And what we have going for that zone is the fact that the weekly and the daily trend is up. So it's definitely decent. This zone removed this proven supply zone, another trade we took from the daily market forecast videos. And so it's pretty significant. It's a nice little, rally base, rally demand. We could definitely see a move off of this zone, but I think extra time, lower time frame confirmation would be a little bit safer based on the fact that it's not as quality as this trade was down here. So that's really the only setup I'm seeing on gold right now. I don't see any shorting setups whatsoever, guys. And since we have a 1 hour trend, we don't have a 4 hour trend, but we do have a 1 hour trend. That means on a 5-minute time frame, we could be looking for shorts. But as we approach these highs in the daily chart, we got to be a little bit cautious. So this would have been a time to have full risk because we were kind of at the low, broke a downward trend. But now that we're pushing up closer to the highs, it might be a time to maybe risk half, especially since that little 4 hour demand zone there isn't the highest quality. But it doesn't mean we can't get a setup there. And again, for short trades, I'm really not seeing anything here, guys. It's really longs all the way, especially as supply zones are being broken and demand zones, are being respected here on gold. All right, on to the USDJPY forecast. On the higher time frames, we have pretty clear and precise price action. We reacted off of this weekly zone that we had in the charts ahead of time, guys. None of this analysis is done after the fact. It's all done before, and we've seen a very, very bullish move off of this weekly demand zone, and it is within a weekly trend. Now, I think I said it last week as well, down at the 149 area, we have a much better weekly zone. I think we could still push down and react at that zone, not seeing any evidence of that whatsoever, but just wanted to point out that the better zone is still down below, but it doesn't mean that we got a nice reaction off of this weekly zone. And it's even more clear here on the daily chart, where we wicked pretty much by the pip right into this daily zone down here at the 150-185 area. And I've had these zones on my charts forever, guys. I mean, as long as they've been created. You can go back and watch the forecast videos. This zone has been on the chart. So it's not done after the fact. Nice move off of this demand zone so far. So things are looking pretty good. The issue, however, is that if you look, the price action is pretty clear on here, on the weekly and on the daily chart. But when we start to look at the 4-hour chart and the 1-hour chart, it's pretty bad. I mean, like on the 1-hour chart here, there's really nothing to go off of. We did have the good demand zone down at the 153.04 area. I still think it's a somewhat decent area, but price has moved so far now that it's pretty much irrelevant at this point. So I wouldn't really be looking at that 1-hour chart. And even on the 4-hour chart, there's nothing. I don't see anything here of quality. I don't see any demand zones at all. That's fresh. I mean, yeah, there is this one down here. We reacted beautifully off of it, but you know, it's not fresh. So the issue with this pair right now is that I'm not seeing any setups. Yes, the higher time frames are clear, but that doesn't mean you will get a trading setup off of this. The members know in the daily market forecast videos, we've pretty much been skipping this pair and all the end pairs. It's just been pretty bad. Actually, the only setup I'm seeing is this short trade up here at the 157.35. So if you are bearish, which I'm not, you know, the trends are up on the weekly and the daily chart. So this is very, very counter trend. But it is probably one of the better setups we could have for a counter trend setup at the 157.35 area. So your whole trading on this pair is going to revolve around this 4-hour supply. For shorts, like I said, and then for longs, if we can remove that, creating hopefully a nice 4-hour zone there, and then we could look for longs. Because I'm not seeing anything down here for pullbacks. If there was a beautiful 4-hour demand zone here that broke a trend line, just like the trade on gold that we took, then okay, we could look for longs off of that, but there's just not. There's no demand down here, so there's really no setup. And there's not even a trend. Yes, this is momentum. We don't trade momentum, you know, in our group. We look at trends only. It's higher odds, in my opinion. This is momentum. In theory, yeah, you could be looking for longs on the day trading timeframes, but it's not like we have a nice looking trend like this with a beautiful trend line that we could definitely be looking for longs off of. I'm not seeing that. So again, it's all gonna, like, the safest thing to do for me is to wait for this 4-hour supply to be removed for longs. And if you're bearish, which I'm not, be good for counter trend setups. And that's going to be about it here on the USD yen, guys. I'm sorry if everyone's, you know, super eager to trade the yen. It's just this price action's been really weird. A lot of choppiness, boom, drop below, lots of wicks, and then just chugging along here. So this is definitely not a chart I look at and be like, wow, I got to trade it. You know, it looks great on the higher time frames, like I said, but on the lower time frames, you know, it's not looking too clear whatsoever. So I would just be revolving around that 4-hour supply at the 157.35 area here on the USDJPY. All right, on to the GBPUSD. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below on the pound. I'm interested to see what you guys think. So let me know. Write to me in the comments what you think is going to take place on the pound. Be specific. So on the daily chart here, we pretty much reacted off the daily supply. So, you know, we could definitely say price should be going down based on the fact that this daily supply is in control. As we look at the lower time frames in the 4-hour chart, we don't really have a lot to go off of here. You know, I guess we did, in theory, have a trend line here. And now that I look at it again, we actually have a supply zone here. So sometimes I do analysis after the fact, but it's just because I didn't really notice it before. I've been extremely busy lately, but it is what it is. We are reacting off supply so far. Not a huge move. This could be an area to look for shorts off of on the day trading timeframes at the 1.2535 area. So again, 15-minute time frame shorts and even 5-minute time frames could be good as we react off of that supply zone. The pound isn't really one I'm super eager to trade at this point either, based on the fact that there's really no trend on the daily chart as well. So it's just not super clear. It's definitely not as clear as like gold or the euro, in my opinion. We did have a downward trend line here in the 1-hour chart. Unfortunately, I don't see any demand zone here. So look, I'm actually noticing this. It's a potential trap setup here where we have a resistance area now and a nice supply right above at the 1.255 area. So if you are bearish, this would be our potential short trade. I think this is probably the highest odd situation for a short at the 1.255 area, and that's going to be about it. It's a supply zone that broke an upward trend line, had a nice reaction off that trend line too, which is always good. So I think we could in fact see a move off of that supply, and that's going to be about it. And as far as longs go, I don't feel comfortable pointing out any longs. Like I said, there's no demand down here at all. It's just kind of chugging along, weird looking price action. So for longs, we need to see this supply removed, and then any 1 hour zone there, if there's a zone right there, then we can look for longs. But you know, based on the DXY and everything, I do think, you know, we could see this react off that supply there. So that's pretty much the only setup I'm seeing here on the GBPUSD. And, you know, again, that's going to be pretty much about it here, guys, on the pound. Again, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the pound. Hopefully mine have been clear. All right, on to the USDCAD, the country that I am from, in case nobody new, in case maybe a lot of people know, but you know, maybe some of you are new to the channel. But anyways, on the daily chart, we don't have much to go off of except for this trend to the upside. Like, the overall trend is up. However, this is pretty evident of what's going on in the lower time frames. A lot of sideways junky price action. So that's pretty much it here on the daily chart. The 4 hour chart's actually a little bit more clear. We had a very obvious downward trend line. We pushed to this downward trend line, reacted off of it, peaked above it a little bit, but it was respected, and I'm not too surprised. So at any point here, you could have been looking for shorts in the day trading timeframes. Pretty sure I mentioned that last week in last week's forecast. You can go back and watch. I think I mentioned that. I'm not 100% sure. It seems like something I would say. The only real setup I'm seeing, it's still day trading shorts. Since this downward trend line is being respected, as long as it's holding, I think day trading shorts on a 50-minute, 5-minute time frame is still a good idea. And we actually have a demand zone down here on the 4 hour chart that's pretty clear at the 1.358 area. So I think it's still decent. We can actually tighten it up just a little bit here at the 1.357 area. And what I like about it is that there's a clear low here, so it's kind of working as a support trap. Hopefully, you know, as price hits this little support area, we react off of it again. Everyone thinks there's support there, and we stop everyone out, react off of our demand zone. We've seen this happen 1,000 times, guys. It's a bread and butter setup here for us. So that's what I think could happen. And what you could do is also use this 4 hour demand zone at the 1.357 area as your long-term short target. If you are short from up here, okay, we're kind of at the lows now. You probably, you know, should lock in a little bit of profit at this point. And what I'm actually seeing now that I kind of zoom out is this high here as well. So this is kind of the overall support and resistance area. So I think it's pretty clear we will probably break this and push down to this demand zone. So again, this could be used for your long-term profit target. If you are short from up here, it's best probably to take off at least 75% of your position, because just because I think it's going to break doesn't mean it won't not break and continue to go up. So it might be best to take off 75% of your short if you are short here, as we could potentially test this trend line again. You don't really want to give up all of that profit. So it's always good to lock in profit with the idea of the long-term profit target down here at the 1.357 area, and then from there we can maybe switch to a long trade. I think that would be, you know, a decent little strategy here on the USDCAD. All right, on to the AUDUSD, the Aussie dollar forecast here. So on the daily chart here, we had that downward trend line. We peaked above it, so it was removed, and it left us with a daily zone down at the 0.652 area. I'm not seeing a ton of evidence, but if we do push down here, I would expect maybe a small move off of that demand zone. And even the supply zone here at the 0.665 area, we had a nice reaction off of it. It's barely tested. I think we could still even react to the downside off of that supply, but I know you guys aren't always looking at the daily charts, so we pretty much have to go to the lower time frames. And what I'm seeing is a pretty clear 4 hour uptrend overall. Yes, we did kind of break down here and go sideways, but the trend is, you know, still up. So we have a few options here, in my opinion. If you are bullish, we have a few options. We basically want to see this supply in the higher move like that, and any 4 hour demand zone there. Okay, we could look for longs off of that zone. I don't really like this supply for shorts. It's pretty much tested. If you want, yeah, you could. It's counter trend, but you could look for maybe confirmation trade shorts off of that supply. I think it's somewhat decent, and that's really the only area I would be looking for shorts if I was. I'm personally not. I don't really like it at all since it's pretty much tested. And like I said, for longs, we want to see that high in the supply removed. But if you want to get a little bit aggressive here on longs, we do have this 1 hour zone. Oops. actually just adjusted it by accident. We do have this 1 hour zone down here at the 0.658 area. If you want to get aggressive, like I said, it's aggressive, but we could look for a long off of that demand zone, the 0.658 area. And if you don't feel comfortable, just buying the zone with a stop below, that's fine. You could also look for confirmation trades in here. And I like this demand zone because based on our chain analysis, we had demand that was tested. We had supply that was tested as well, and now we have demand that removed that supply. So based on our chain analysis, it is a pretty good zone, good little rally, tight basing, very nice move away, and I think we could see a move off of that zone. And I'm not going to confuse you guys any more than that. I think that's pretty much all we need to say here on the Aussie. Look for that pullback. I think it's somewhat decent. All right, on to the USDCHF. So today we just barely remove this upward trend line here on the daily chart. So I wouldn't say it's super weak. It's not like candle all week, close all the way down here or anything. But however, that did create a daily supply at the 0.9145 area. And my question is now, is this maybe the deeper pullback we could maybe see down to this weekly demand zone at the 0.88 area? It's possible. It's not a ton of evidence. What we need to really see to predict that would be the removal of this daily zone. So I'm kind of seeing a couple options here. You guys know I like to point out both sides. There's a decent demand zone down here in the 4-hour chart, the 0.90 area. I think we could see a move off of that zone. It's somewhat decent, and maybe the idea is they want to push price off of this 4-hour demand zone down here to push back up to that daily supply and then react to the downside down to the weekly demand. It's possible. So this would be our area for potential longs at the 0.90 area at this 4-hour demand zone. Extra confirmation might be a little bit better. And then for shorts, I'm really still seeing this 4-hour supply at the 0.915 area. I think it's somewhat decent. We could definitely see move off that supply if we do push up to that. I'm not sure if we'll get that move all week. It's a pretty big move. But however, we definitely could see that move up to that supply, and that'd be a good area to look for a short trade. And that's going to be about it here in the USD Swiss. Not the most clear price action, but at least we have a few zones to work off of on the weekly and the daily chart, and we're kind of just sitting in the middle right now in the daily chart. So a little confusing. That's why I like to point it out both sides, and I could see reasons for looking for shorts and looking for longs here on the USD Swiss. All right, last but not least, we are on to crude oil. So just want to point out that the weekly supply is in control. If you go back and watch the forecast from maybe the start of, I don't even know, back when we contacted this weekly supply zone, I was a little surprised we're getting this big of a pullback. I thought we would see maybe a small move and then the breakup, especially since it's very, very tested. But, we are definitely seeing a nice move to the downside off of the supply. And what I think we are getting is a pullback down to this daily zone at the 74.04 area, where I think we could easily react to the upside off of this zone. So all long-term short targets are down to the 74.04 area, and that is where I would look to take my final, take profit. And as far as trading it goes, I am still seeing this 4-hour downward trend. So what that means is on a 50-minute and a 5-minute time frame, we could be looking for shorts on those day trading time frames. If we do pull back to this supply zone at the 81.06 area in the 4-hour chart, I think it's decent as long as we don't, go all the way down to the daily demand zone first and then come up. We pretty much need to see that pullback sooner than never. I was kind of hoping we'd see it here. Didn't look like we were getting that. So I still think it's somewhat decent if we can pull back to there somewhat soon at the 81.06 area. It's a decent little base drop with a nice move away. So it's still a good 4-hour supply zone, but we could also just still be looking for shorts on the day trading timeframes, like I said. If you don't think we are going to pull back down to this daily zone, which I kind of think we do, if you want to get very, very aggressive, I only really like to trade these kind of 1-hour zones when they're in a daily zone. We're not in a daily zone, but we did break a significant downward trend line and a supply zone with this 1-hour zone at 77.99. So if you want to get aggressive, our nearest short-term long trade would be down here at this 1-hour zone. We could definitely see a move off of that zone. It's a beautiful rally-based rally with a beautiful move away. It is somewhat decent. It's definitely an area where I would say, hey, even though there's no daily zone here, we did break a trend line. This could be a fake out here. It's definitely possible. You're not going to win every trade, but you also can't, be scared money doesn't make any money. So yeah, we could see a move off this 1-hour zone. If you are short on from up here, you might want to look to take some profits here, maybe 50% of the profits, because I think I think we could definitely react off the zone. I'm not saying we'll react all the way to the upside off the zone. It's possible maybe we react off here, push back up, and then push down to that daily zone. But it's definitely a little 1 hour demand zone there that I think we could definitely see a move to the upside there on crude oil. And if you guys want to watch the full length forecast with all the other markets, make sure to subscribe to the channel membership to get access.